distinguished guests, President Aznar, honorary board members, excellencies, members of the European Parliament, and distinguished panel members. My name is John Dennehy. I'm the Secretary General of Bussola Institute, and it's my great pleasure on behalf of the Board of Directors of Bussola Institute and on behalf of the Honorary Board to welcome you this evening to the official launch of Bussola Institute and our seminar. Our seminar, which I am confident is the first of many seminars that we hope to have here within these surroundings, dealing with various aspects of navigating the relationships between Europe and the Gulf countries. I am delighted now at this stage to call on His Excellency Jose Maria Aznar, President of Bussola Institute Honorary Board and former President of the Government of Spain, to deliver the opening address. Thank you very much, President Aznar.
Well, thank you very much, Excellencies, Ambassadors, Yamal. Thank you very much for your work and your team as well, and congratulations for this initiative. And distinguished guests, a very good evening to you all. As President of the Advisory Board of the Bussola Institute, I am pleased and honored to welcome to you all to this seminar. And thank you very much, all my former colleagues, Anders, Francois, Jersey, and then as well Anna, Mary, and the other members of the honorary board of this institute. It is truly exciting for me to be here and an event that focuses on the relations between the European Union and the GCC, especially on the subject of new opportunities that developments in the GCC will offer and the possible challenges we need to take heed of. Bussola Institute is, in that respect, providing a much-needed focus on the GCC that I hope will produce and share much-needed knowledge about the transformation of the GCC countries and what that means for the GCC. I am looking forward to seeing Bussola Institute focus in the future on the various aspects, on the relationships between GCC countries and the European Union, political, social, economic, security, and cultural. There is an important dialogue that we need to have through collaborative research or cultural exchange. Bussola Institute is well positioned to become a platform for thought leaders on European Union and GCC relations. Today's seminar, which I hope will be the first of many workshops, seminars, conferences, and other events of this kind, will focus on an important aspect of how the dynamics between the European Union and GCC are evolving. The theme of our seminar this evening is a future vision of GCC post-oil economy strategies, challenges, and opportunities for Europe. This seminar is set in the context of the significant diplomatic and strategic relations which currently exist between the countries of the Gulf Cooperation Council and the countries of the European Union, center of the common political and economic interests. However, this relationship is evolving and growing as the transformation to a post-oil economy will change some of the bases of economic interdependence between the Arab world and the European Union. Today, therefore, Bussola Institute is delighted to host a number of experts from the GCC and the European Union to discuss many of the opportunities and challenges facing the development and strengthening of these relations in the post-oil era. Our guest speaker will shed light on the potential areas of collaboration and common interest between the GCC and the European Union in the post-oil era and the resulting future transformation of the Gulf countries' economy. I bid a very warm welcome to our eminent speakers, Mr. Juma Al-Qaid, Assistant Undersecretary, Ministry of the Economy, United Arab Emirates, Mr. Omran Saraf, United Arab Emirates First Mission to Mars Project Manager, Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center, Mr. Sergei Stanishev, Member of the European Parliament, President of the Party of the European Socialists, former Prime Minister of Bulgaria, and Vice President of the European Union United Arab Emirates Parliamentary Friendship Group, and Mr. Antonio López Istúriz Wáiz, Member of the European Parliament and Secretary General of the European People's Party. You are renowned experts in your respective fields, and we are indeed very honored to have you here with us. Mr. Mohamed Baharoum, a member of the Bussola Institute Board of Directors, will act as moderator for this evening's seminar. Mohamed will introduce our guest speaker and offer you some background of each of them. Let me take this opportunity to acknowledge the major contribution that has been made by many of the people in this room to Arab-European dialogue down through the years. We extend an invitation to you to engage with our speakers in an open and constructive dialogue, and we encourage you to share your own ideas, views, and experience with us. Undoubtedly, our knowledge will be enriched this evening by your varied, fresh, and innovative contributions. I am convinced that the post-oil era offers promising opportunities to develop new and stronger partnerships between the GCC and the European Union in the transformation to knowledge economy based on creativity and innovation. I believe that each one of us wants to safeguard our world for future generations. This will require us to be open to change and to work closer together, drawing on all of our combined expertise, experience, human goodwill, and ingenuity. We have also added a very special cultural dimension to our proceedings this evening. We are hugely privileged to have here with us Mr. Faisal Al-Sahari, the renowned Emirati composer, musician, and celebrated oud player. Faisal will introduce us to an exciting mix of Western music played on this occasion on the traditional Arabic instrument, the oud. You will then have a unique opportunity to chat with him and discuss this special musical meeting of cultures. The evening will come to a close with a reception to which you are cordially invited. Once again, I would like to warmly thank all of you for being with us this evening and commend everyone involved in this flagship project. I wish you all a pleasant evening, and I look forward very much to welcoming your participation in future events. I tell you, dear Jersey, that this is a protocolary speech. And you tell me it is impossible in your case. No, it is impossible in your case. No, it's possible in your case. It's always it's just a protocolary speech. Thank you very much, all of you, for your presence.
President Aznar, thank you for what I think is actually an inspiring speech, not only protocolary. It's a great pleasure welcoming you all here for the inaugural event of Bussola Institute, and I would like to join President Aznar for the very important point that he made, that we all need to work together in each and our field to safeguard our future. It's the future of the generations, and if we don't start building up relationship to safeguard that future, we're possibly going to lead us to misunderstanding that could even develop to struggle and conflict, something that we're seeing around us, unfortunately. I'm privileged to be moderating this session, hosting a wide range of fantastic people, speakers who are not only knowledgeable in their own fields, but they've always had this ability to convert challenges into opportunities. And that's exactly what we're trying to achieve here. And on that note, allow me to say that this world is changing as we know it. We had a bipolar world where we had two superpowers that turned into a unipolar world with one superpower, and now we've got a multipolar world. Those external changes are affecting the region, affecting the GCC countries as other countries. But the changes that are happening in the GCC are not only external, they're very internal in nature. And one major driver of change of the dynamic is the outlook for a new type of economy that is not based on oil. So a post-oil economy is driving changes not only on the economic level, but also in the social level and as well as in the political level. And all of that would require us to look very carefully at those new dynamics, how they are emerging, what new challenges they would pose, but also what new opportunities that they would get. I would like to start by thanking two of our speakers who flew in to Brussels specifically for this session, His Excellency Jamal Kate and His Excellency Imran Sharaf. Both of them came specifically to share their views and ideas with us today, and for that I'm very indebted for them. Imran particularly arrived at 2:30 this afternoon, and he will have to leave by 7 because he's having an early meeting tomorrow morning. So that shows you the dedication in which they're putting in their very busy schedule, coming from the US, coming to Brussels and going back to the UAE. That's the type of spirit that people are working with, and it also makes us excited about their work. But also, I'm glad to have both His Excellency Sergei Stanishev and His Excellency Antonio. Both of them have been having a very close eye on the region. They have looked at the developments that are happening. They understand very well some of the new changes that are happening, and I think they are very well positioned to comment on what both Mr. Juma and Mr. Amran are going to deliver to us. And I would like to start with His Excellency Juma, who is the Undersecretary for Trade in the Ministry of Economy in the UAE. Someone who has looked at trade relations between the UAE and at a larger issue, or on a larger aspect, the GCC countries, and look at what type of diversification plans and strategies that are already there and what's their impact. We understand, for instance, that the UAE has got its 2021 plan, Saudi Arabia has got its 2030, Qatar has got a 2030, Bahrain has got a 2030 plan, Kuwait has just announced its 2035 plan. All of them are post-oil based strategic plans, and they chart their future aspirations and also the type of things that they need to do right now for the future. What does that mean for the established relationship between Europe and the GCC, and how does that affect, if at all? So I would ask His Excellency Juma to start the discussion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mohammed, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, very good day to all of you. It gives me great pleasure and honor to participate in this seminar titled The Future Vision of the GCC Post-Oil Economy and the Opportunities and Challenges for Europe. I would like also to express my sincere gratitude and thanks to Bosla Institute for organizing this important meeting. I think this is a crucial meeting since we will revisit areas of ties between both sides and how to, and maybe to explore how can we enhance this partnership and investment. Yesterday I was reading in the news that the EU have signed a free trade agreement with Mexico, a very comprehensive agreement. Trade exchange between EU and Mexico reached around 62 billion euro, which is good. And when I went through the details, I found that the agreement was signed in 2000, but this is a modernizing agreement that included the new topics and issues in the agreement to just to cope with the changes that happened recently. And I remember our negotiation, the GCC and the EU, back in 2008 when we couldn't seal the deal at that time, although we were very much close to sign an agreement, maybe because we just wanted to have a perfect agreement at that time. Now the trade exchange between GCC and EU in 2017 reached 100 billion US dollar. And imagine if we have this agreement signed, we will have this flow of goods between GCC and EU without any custom duties and unnecessary barriers. But we can do it. I think we need just to engage into dialogue, open dialogue, in order to achieve this agreement and many other agreements. Going back to the diversification policy of the UAE, I think we have good things to say about the diversification. The UAE economy considered one of the most open economy, holding significant potential and even an economic infrastructure that attracts a lot of businesses and technological companies, and making the UAE the focus point and also the hub for many different investment firms. As UAE economy is a country that produce oil, and now we managed to have, the government managed to have to minimize the contribution of the oil into the GDP with less than 30%. And we are working towards also improving the contribution of the non-oil sector into the GDP. How can we do this? There is a clear vision from the government. In 2010, the government launched UAE Vision 2021, which want the country to be among the best countries in the world. And how can we turn this from document into reality? The government also has cascaded this vision into 6 main pillars. The most important one, which is I'm working on as a part of Ministry of Economy, is the competitive knowledge-based economy. How can we transform our economy to a knowledge-based economy? This will not happen without having partnership and collaboration with countries who have the know-how and expertise in this field. This will definitely open areas of partnership with a lot of countries like the EU. And we have also signed a number of agreements and memorandum of understanding in order to cooperate in how to build our knowledge-based economy. Other pillars are also important, which is one of them is the sustainable environment and infrastructure. This pillar is linked directly with the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, and other pillars related to education, health, and fair judiciary, and also to maintain and preserve the UAE identity. I recall that in 2015 we had a visit with His Excellency the Minister of Economy to the EU Parliament, and we had a discussion on our plan and vision of the UAE. From that visit also we had had a discussion with a number of entities, including Veto Institute here in Belgium, and we signed an MOU with Veto on innovation and research and development. This institute established their presence now in the UAE and have more than 5 projects signed with number of institutes and also private companies. How can we move forward together on this? I think by having this kind of dialogue, looking at the trade, we are doing very well. We have a warm and strategic partnership that based on solid and clear principles, mutual understanding and respect, and cooperation, and towards finding a peaceful solution on international issues and maintaining security. This is an excellent platform to go further and work together on other areas. We have numbers of agreements signed on GCC level and on the UAE level with many different countries in the EU, establishing joint economic committees with a clear action plan on number of issues that could contribute in increasing the trade between and investment between UAE and EU. We have a trade of 180 billion US dollar between GCC and the EU in 2017. 36 of this going to the UAE. And also 42% of the EU export going to the UAE, and 23% of the EU imports coming from the UAE. So the UAE also is an important partner and contribute heavily in building this relation. And I think from any kind of partnership that grow, I think there will be definitely challenges. And we need to tackle the challenges and to overcome those challenges by understanding each other better. So free trade agreement was a challenge for us. We couldn't find a solution or how to sign the deal. And the file now is just frozen on the table. It's not moving anywhere. We're trying to have a dialogue and to see how can we improve this. We are moving as the EU moving with other countries. We sign agreement with EFTA countries, with Singapore, and we are close also to sign with China. I think by having this, there might be a possibility of losing the competitive advantage of the market, sharing market, both sides, GCC and EU. So the free trade agreement is something important, I see it, and we need to focus on it. There are a lot of other issues, maybe the aviation also. Without aviation, we will not have Amran coming today and leaving today also. So I think it is important to maintain our relation and this level of cooperation and build on it further. I will not take much of the time. We'll stop here and I'll let my colleague to add this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Even though I'm sort of itching to ask you some questions based on what you said, and I think one, you're absolutely right about free trade agreements as a way of organizing or facilitating this type of flow of trade. But I think as we move into a knowledge-based age, I think free trade agreements would require some sort of a free knowledge clause to that agreement, because without that we cannot move to the next phase. The second thing is the idea of the new partners. I mean, UAE particularly, for instance, is extending its trade with partners like China and India, and that's for it is becoming an important part of its mix. Does that pose a challenge or an opportunity, especially that it's developing its transit hub or itself as a transit hub that allow you to pass on the trade? A lot of that trade is a transit trade, which means it moves from one where to another. And it's not only the ports, the airlines, the airports, it's also the blockchain technology that allows for that. And this is the actual value, for instance, China sees in the UAE. The one belt, one road does not go physically through the UAE, but the digital Silk Road goes through the UAE because of the blockchain. So there are new opportunities that are being produced. So I would like to hear your take briefly on that, if you can.
On the FTA, it is important. We have seen. I think the example of Mexico agreement is really a good one, since it has been signed in 2000 and modernized now, with the inclusion of new issues like the anti-corruption, the e-commerce, the small and medium enterprise, the entrepreneur cooperation. So this is something can be addressed in the FTA and can be addressed outside the FTA as well. So what we are doing now is trying to build on this outside the FTA, because there's some obstacles, obviously, with the track of the FTA. Signing number of agreements and MOU with, we have signed with Sweden, with Belgium, with Italy, with South Korea, with Canada, with the United States. It depends on the expertise that those countries have. So some of them on small and medium enterprises, some of them on intellectual property, some of them on innovation and research and development. And we've seen also a very good progress that we are doing, and we involve also the private sector working on this. Yes, I think if there is a chance, there will be also new partners. We don't look at countries we might look at chances more than looking at the countries. So if there is a chance to enhance relations, trade relations, we try to explore. The partnership that we have with EU, it's very special and distinguished. I cannot compare it with other countries. Maybe we have a line of interest with some countries when it's come to trade and investment, yes, and we are keen to develop this, like what we have now with China, with India. We're looking also to other regions like Latin America. So wherever the chances and opportunities are there, we are keen to develop it.
Thank you very much. And now allow me to turn to Amran. Amran is part of the AML mission, the HOPE mission to Mars probe, and also he contributes to the team that drafts the UAE Advanced Science and Technology Agenda, which is basically our direction for the knowledge-based economy. And I would like to take your actual experience with knowledge transfer, your actual experience in how a scientific program can actually be a basis for diversifying the economy. Please.
Thank you, Mohammed, and thank you everyone. And I'm very sorry because I have to leave today. I would really love to stay here. I like you guys. I'm not running away, trust me. But hopefully next time we'll have more time with you guys. And yes, exactly as Mohammed and Jim'a just mentioned, and we talk about the knowledge-based economy. And one thing that Jim'a mentioned is the competitive knowledge-based economy. If you want to have a competitive knowledge-based economy, it needs to be a creative and innovative knowledge economy. To do that, you need to have the right research culture. You need to have the right ecosystem. You need to have the right foundation and the sort of the environment that would support that to happen. And obviously, why we were talking about the post-oil economy? Because of progress. Stone Age didn't end because we ran out of stone, but because of progress. And the oil age won't end because we run out of oil, but again because of progress. So it's about survival, it's about the future, and it's about sustainable development. So the UAE, when it looks at the science technology sector, it looks at it in two different ways. One of it is the economical aspect, and how to make it like a driver for our economy and the future of our economy, but also looks at it as a way to tackle its challenges. Food security, water security, even energy security. Speaking about energy, for example, when we were young, a few years ago, they used to say that solar panels are not something that we can use in the UAE because of the humidity and the dust. But then when NASA decides to go to Mars and decides to put a rover on Mars, they all of a sudden come up with a new technology that they put this layer on top of a solar panel that makes the dust slides off. So this is why we need to have our own science technology sector, so that we can actually, like, if we had that knowledge, if we had that experience, if we had that capability, this technology could have been developed long time ago and could have been used by many different nations in the region and all different parts of the world that have challenges, such as the ones that we have. So this is one of the aspects of that the UAE, why it's looking at the science technology sector. It's about survival. It's about boosting our economy. It's about tackling our challenges. And the best way to do that is through knowledge transfer program. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We can. It's going to take forever. However, we have our national priorities. We have our national challenges. And we need to tackle those as soon as possible. So the leadership in the UAE looked at space as a way to sort of boost or create that as a catalyst to build that sector. Why? Because space is a multidisciplinary sector. There's no space engineering. You need to have an electrical engineer, you need to have a mechanical engineer, you need to have a mathematician, a physicist, all those people working together to build a space mission. So when you build, and space is difficult again, and it's challenging. So if you build capabilities in these areas, then the ripple effect or the spillover of these capabilities can serve all different sectors. And our economy relies a lot on technology, which is mainly imported from outside. So a good example was in our the mission that I was actually involved in, or the UAE space program, the space program that started in 2006. Because we basically in the 70s and the 80s we were users of space technologies. In early 90s, with the launch of Thuraya satellite, we became moved from just users to users and operators of satellites. But in 2006, when the leadership asked a team to go to South Korea to go through a know-how transfer to build a spacecraft, that was DubaiSat-1, which was launched in 2009, and it was an Earth observation satellite, 2.5 meter resolution. And then another mission that followed, also in South Korea, was DubaiSat-2, and the resolution was 1 meter. However, our contribution went from 30% to 50%. That's when we entered into the era or the stage of being manufacturers, operators, and users of space technology. And why did we go with South Korea? We had many different options. We went to Europe, we went to the US, we went to South Africa, and we looked at different options. South Korea was the only country and nation that was fine with giving us the full know-how transfer up to source code. So one of our strategic partners in our space sector, in our science technology sector, is South Korea because of that. And we built our space program in Dubai Sat 1, Dubai Sat 2, and now Khalifa Sat, which is 100% Emirati, built in the UAE, which is going to be launched at the end of this year, 70 centimeter resolution, because South Korea played a big role in that. So South Korea could have been difficult, and could have been like, you know what, we're not going to give you everything. I mean, the knowledge is there. Eventually, nations will get the capacity and capability they need. But should we just delay that, or should we actually work more on collaboration and working together to move forward? The company that we worked with in South Korea, it was a new startup. The people in it had knowledge. However, now it's actually selling spacecrafts to Europe, to the Korean government and other Asian governments. So because of that collaboration, we were able to move forward, and they were able to move forward. So this is an example of why know-how is very important. And now we're talking about the Mars mission. So the UAE, when it decided to go to Mars, is not about saying that we reached Mars. It's not about the red planet. It's about creating a career path and opportunity for scientists. The government has invested a lot in our engineering capacity, building engineering capacity for the past 46 years. However, if you want to have a science and technology sector, you need to have the scientists. Why? The scientists are the ones who come up with the new knowledge, and the engineers are the ones who convert this knowledge into products, the ecosystem. They complement each other. So through this mission, His Highness Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed and His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, they wanted to inspire young Emiratis to go into sciences. Before, they had very limited career path, either work in university or teach in a school, or in very small labs. But now it's a very strong message that you guys have a career path like any other engineer or person in the government. And we want you guys to start working with other sectors also to address our food security challenges, water challenges, health challenges eventually. And that's why the Emirates Mars mission was established. And another aspect of it is also through these efforts that we are trying to build our science and technology sector to serve our economy and our challenges. Also, we have a very important aspect which the government has set as a big priority, and which is also reflected in our science agenda, which is science diplomacy. I don't know if you guys know about the Emirates Mars mission, but the Prime Minister, Zana Sheikh Mohammed, met with us in 2013, and he told us, I want us to celebrate our 50th anniversary, the 2nd of December, 2021, with a very big achievement. I want you guys to take us to Mars. I don't want you to buy the system, I want you to build it. You can collaborate, don't start from scratch, work with others. International collaboration is a core aspect of it, know-how is a core aspect of it, it's fine, but do not buy it. So at that time, we literally had 7 years, actually no, 6 years. And the opportunity to go to Mars comes once every 2 years because of the orbit of Mars. You launch when Mars is closest to Earth. So the chance was 2014, 16, 18, and 2020. So, but if you're going to build it, it's impossible. We need at least 4 years to 5 years to build it. So 2020 is the only option we have. And we do not have announced a budget. We have a very, very limited budget, which will be announced at the right time. But that forced the team to come up with a new and innovative way to build on the experiences of others, to use international collaboration, to use the know-how transfers to come up with a new model that hopefully, if it works, and inshallah it will work, or else I'll lose my job, that will show other nations how they can build their economies, how they can build the space sector, how they can inspire their youth. A big message behind this mission, why did the designers call it the Hope Mission? Misbar al-Amal, hope. It's because you're talking about a region which has more than 100 million youth in it. If you don't invest in them, like a region that was more than 800 years ago, very active in generating knowledge, was an example of a civilization that generated knowledge as an example of tolerance I mean, there's a lot of things they teach us in history about the wars and all that stuff, but this was an example of tolerance in which people from different ethnic groups, different backgrounds, different religions, Muslims, Jews, Christians, all lived together, worked together, and basically coexisted together. You know, the moment we stopped doing that, the region went into a chaos. So the message that His Highness wants to send to the youth of the Arab youth of the region is that if the UAE is able to reach Mars in less than 50 years, you guys can do much more than that. A region that has long history in generating knowledge in sciences and technology, you guys can do much more than that. 100 million youth, if we don't invest in them, and that's the message for the governments of the region, they will either migrate, and that's not going to help the region, or they're going to join their own groups, which we've seen what happened the recent years. So these are the aspects of the science technology activities and the space program that we have in the UAE, to serve the economy and to serve other national objectives and challenges, but also to serve the region. And space diplomacy, as I said, is a big part of that. And know-how is part of space diplomacy. International collaboration is part of space diplomacy and all that.
And I think the story of going to South Korea is a very significant story in itself, because it tells us that, well, in a sense, they were also a startup nation. And we're looking at self as a startup nation, and that makes them understand some of those areas. But again, we cannot, as you said, advance our collective history, our collective achievements, if we do not operate. I would like to move from that to Antonio Lopez Esteres White. You're my only friend with 4 names that I have to say every time. He's actually more known to all of his friends as Tono, which is something I love. You've been a very keen observer of the region. You've made a number of visits to various countries in the region. And based on this particular focus on post-oil economy and its challenges and opportunities, what type of opportunities that you see for Europe particularly, for the EU in particular? Where can we advance? What are something that we haven't done before, but we have an opportunity to do, and it could take us further in the next 50 and 100 years?
Well, thank you, Mohammed. Let me start first with some acknowledgements, and then we'll go into that. First, I have to tell you that you are very unfair with Sergei and me, because you put first to speak a top expert economist, someone that wants to send spacecraft to Mars, and then we come the politicians. So I will try to be very brief.
They need you, trust me.
One thing, by the way, Sergei and I, today, ladies and gentlemen, we are not going to ask for the vote for our respective parties, but there is one thing that unites us, apart from friendship, is that we are members of the friendship group with the United Arab Emirates. My president, his vice president, but in any case, in this friendship group, we are all members, as some of my colleagues who are here today witnesses during our visit several months ago to the Emirates, which was very successful, and we are all the members of the European Parliament that went there very thankful for that. I would like to profit also the opportunity, as a good politician, to say thank you to several people. Mohammed, you will allow me, please. First of all, of course, to my good friend, president of this organization, Dr. Ahmad Al-Kuwaisi, and of course to you, Mohammed Baharoun, to Amal Al-Hadabi, who is here, to John and all the team, that you are doing a wonderful work with this institute, with Busola. Thank you for that. And I always, of course, we have with us the ambassador of the United Arab Emirates, good friend Mohammed Al-Busabat. Thank you also for being here. And I leave always for the end, but I always tell about her, because she was the first Emirati who worked in the European Parliament, Khulud, who is also in the team. So you know I have certain weakness for Khulud. So so thank you also, and to all the team. The easy thing about speaking after the experts is also that I can make some kind of reaction to some of the statements that I could not agree more in many of the spheres. It's a lost opportunity what happened in 2018. But okay, we don't live about the past. we live in the future. We had a fantastic visa liberalization agreement between the United Arab Emirates and the European Union, which, by the way, foresaw something very important. You spoke about billions and so on, but also we have to speak about the people. There are thousands of Europeans living at this moment in the United Arab Emirates, in a country of tolerance, where they move freely. I remember the first time someone told me to go to the United Arab Emirates. It was in 2011, my first time in my life. I am not the kind of Lawrence of Arabia type. First time for me, I arrived there, I was fresh, didn't know anything about you. And I was astonished by the degree of integration, of relation and tolerance and cooperation of different, as you stated, cultures, religions in your country. It never ceases to amaze me every time I go. And I believe that apart from economy is also the question of the people. This movement of people from the European Union to the United Arab Emirates, and also people like Hulud, but many others that have to come. I insist very much that they have to come to work also in the European institutions to get the feeling, as talleres, to collaborate. This will help our cause, common cause. That it is to have a much better relation, and in the benefit, that there are many benefits. Juma spoke about challenges. Don't worry, we are experts in challenges here in the European Union. We love them, because only with challenges we grow. I have to tell you, this is a little secret. Whenever things are going well here, no one does anything. But when challenges come, we are, we get united. Challenges are there. But you cited, and we all know, some of us, we know very well, the question of aviation. This is something that we have to work hard on it. And we know it's a big interest also for United Arab Emirates, because they have made huge investments, not only in money, but also in knowledge and many things about aviation. It's amazing also the hubs that you have built, both in Abu Dhabi and in Dubai, the airlines that you have. We have to work on that and to reach some kind of agreement. I am, as a Europeanist, I'm not so much for the bilateral agreements. I think that you have to do it with the whole European Union. It will be far less cost for the economies. You have to make your numbers, and it is more difficult. But as the Mexico case, Canada, we have winners with a lot of political challenges. But finally we succeeded. So we have to fight for it. And we have to renew the efforts to have a trade agreement between both areas. Things that unite us, a lot. A common understanding, in how to fight those who have a misinterpretation of religion. And in this, we are together. Also, that we want stability around us. You want it in your region, and us also, because we are also surrounded by very problematic now countries, wars, and hunger, poverty, and we have to work on that. With that, I want also to mention, because we visited with the friendship group this refugee camp that the United Arab Emirates is financing in one of the many that the United Arab Emirates are financing. In this case, it was in Jordan, which is helping not only you, but also the European Union. It's alleviating a problem that we're having with the question also now of the refugees and immigrants, that is creating some political turmoils and instability in this European Union. This is also something that we have to work, and we have to take care of these refugees and these people that are suffering for these wars in Syria and Iraq. And we have to deploy more efforts in this sense. Also, this will be a very well used money, by the way. I wanted to cite, of course, a person that I admire, which is His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, and he He speaks always of a united country, defending the unity of the country. I hope he will come to Spain to say that. We need that also. Wisely investing the current abundant wealth, both in the country and in the people. I have witnessed that. No one is out of this in the United Arab Emirates. I wish other countries would do also that. And diversifying the economy for a post-oil future. This has been very well explained by my colleagues before, and we know about that. And also stress the importance, and this is the key moment, the importance of education as an essential component of the post-oil future. This is the key. This is the key. These people that are speaking you with expertise, from the United Arab Emirates, comes from a generation that has been educated and pushed by the leadership in the United Arab Emirates to become, part of that vision and that accomplishment that the country is doing. I think, in my case, and I leave it here, that us Europeans, we have in the United Arab Emirates not only a country that is a friend, but also that we have many things in common. As I'm sure, it's not my witness, it's thousands, as I said, thousands and thousands of Europeans that are now today living there. That this will be the future, and that it is essential for the interest of the European Union to have the best of relation with you, with the UAE, as a stabilizing factor in a region that needs very much these efforts. So thank you for that, and I hope I was brief enough, Mohammed. And I leave it there for the questions and answers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Brief but wise enough, as always. Sergey, what do you see as these challenges and opportunities ahead of us? What are the new areas that we haven't thought about before and can, support us in fostering and, strengthening this relationship?
Well, thank you very much, Mohammed and Your Excellencies. I think all the thanks have been already said. Usually, when you speak last, it is expected you to be brief. And in the European Parliament, we are trained to speak briefly. And I've always wondered, how can you say anything meaningful in a speech between 1 and 2 minutes, apart from hello and goodbye? Thank you for the attention. But in this case, because I was strongly intrigued by the subject, I did some digging and research, so it will take me a bit more time maybe. I hope it will not be annoying for the audience. But speaking of the efforts of the GCC countries, and especially the United Arab Emirates, in the transformation of the economy for post-oil period, you have to look at several moments. First is the political context. Second is actually what has been achieved in the last years, because this is not a new process. It has been going for quite some time. And thirdly, what is the role for the European Union to play? So I tried to focus on these 3 elements. And the first thing is that, of course, the European Union generally has non-problematic relations with the GCC countries, which is a very good precondition. Of course, the question would be, what is the future of the GCC? And this is an open question for the European Union from the point of view of how to deal with the free trade agreement, which was postponed, not signed in 2008, and how to proceed from now on. Or should the European Union go into deeper bilateral relations? Because we are all aware that GCC was established in 1981. There have been different elements of cooperation and proposals for a deeper union, including 2011 by Saudi Arabia, which proposed a much deeper coordination and integration in economy, security, military, and other elements, which didn't happen until that moment. And there were 2 big crises which are also challenging the GCC future. One in 2014, when 3 countries of the region withdrew their diplomatic representatives from Kuwait, and the other one in 2017. And this is a problem. What will be the future of the GCC? Because I think it's an important precondition, but it has to be decided by the countries in the region. The European Union cannot influence this process. Then I can tell you also from the experience of the European Union, we had a very turbulent history, as you're aware. And the most unique thing about the European Union is that we learned somehow, after terrible, tragic history of the 20th century, 2 world wars, to live together and to work together to look for balanced solutions. Because you can, in life, you cannot choose your family, your relatives. In international politics, you cannot choose your neighbors, but you can choose the relations, because there is a historical burden everywhere, including in the Gulf area. But you can create new realities, a new future, by changing the paradigm. And actually, I would say that there are many common interests of the European Union from the political point of view about the broader Middle East region and the policies of the United Arab Emirates, which indeed are a country which is a tolerant one, a country of stability in many ways, and a country which is promoting mutual understanding. First is the peace and political stability. The other element is the regional stability. I would like to underline that not long ago, in February, Federica Mogherini, the High Representative of the European Commission on Foreign Policy and Security Policy, was on a visit in the region, and she clearly declared that EU is ready to contribute by whatever means are available to us for a positive dynamics in the region, because there is a momentum. The Islamic State was territorially defeated. It's not what it used to be 2 years ago. But there are still very serious challenges of instability. Look what's going on in Syria, in Yemen. It is problematic in many other parts of this region, and it has to be solved. EU is ready to get involved in helping stabilize the region. And the other element which is also common and which is especially important for the countries from the region is the oil and fossil fuels price and shipment security. It's important for you, it's important for us. So I go to the second part of the subject, the outcome of the efforts for economic diversification for the GCC countries. I must say that it is quite a success, not surprisingly for me, because actually you have historical experience which goes back even into 1920s and 1930s, when a traditional industry like the pearl industry, which was very important for the economies of the Gulf in the 19th century, it was challenged by Japanese competition, producing cheaper and better quality pearls. And it was a big shock for the population and for your economies. So you had this experience, and it lasted for quite a long before the oil boom came in 1940s and 1950s. But still, oil itself, it's a blessing, and it's also a burden and a curse in a way, because you have seen how volatile the prices have been through the past. And I made just a small research that in 1970s, in 1973, the price was $2.7 per barrel. Then in 79 it was already 29. In 1980s it started with 35, but in the second half of the decade it went down to the average of, I think the bottom was 14. By the way, the same phenomenon influenced very severely the Soviet Union. Was one of the factors of the dissolving of the Soviet Union and the economic crisis there. But that lasted for quite long for the region. And since then started the preparation and efforts for diversification. And a of course, there were other developments, including the boom of the prices again from the early years of the 21st century, which lasted until the economic crisis, and then the bottom in 2016 down to $40 per barrel. So you can see the volatility, and each shake-up had a very serious consequence and repercussions, economic and social, for the countries of the region. So diversification was realized as a must by the leadership of all countries, and this is why every country is having plans which are quite similar as an idea. They are top-down, they are goal-oriented, they have some kind of 5-year plans and assessment of the achievements, but also it creates, some risks, because many of the plans are quite similar in approaches, and the economies are not the same, the economies of the countries in the region. And they create also regional competition in a way which is not always productive. If you look at the airlines competition, Etihad, Emirates, Qatar Airways, same region, competing with each other for the same share of the market. And this is also a lesson to learn, because the transformation which happened in the last 4 or 5 decades, with the boom of the export of oil and fossil fuels in general, created a big social transformation. Urban population went up dramatically, both due to natural birth factors, the organic growth, but also the immigrant, which is creating a lot of foreign people living in the countries, working there, and they are the major labor force in the countries. So in this context also, changes happened which are very positive also. If you look at the statistics, the expected years of GCC schooling from 1980s to 2011 increased from 8 years to 14, which is creating a new generation of much better educated people. But also, all this phenomenon, including the efforts for diversification of the economy, created other tensions, because one can see that nationals are much more oriented towards the public sector. And the private sector is dominated in all countries to a different extent, less in Saudi Arabia, much more in Kuwait or the United Arab Emirates or in Oman, is dominated by foreigners, which is creating potentially very serious questions and challenges. So the direction from a European perspective should be to create many more incentives for the nationals of the countries to work in the private sector and in real economy, because currently they're more oriented towards the public sector because of the higher salaries, because of the good benefits, and actually this has become part of the social contract for the countries. But it is not very sustainable in the longer run. And looking at the effects which have been created by the economic developments, huge boom in the big cities, but still there is no sustainability in water supply and water use and in energy efficiency. So this is an area to be focused probably in the new next level of diversification efforts, because when I said that there has been a successful story, it is true. Many of the companies which were created on the basis of the incomes from oil and gas exports and directing them into new sectors like SABIC in Saudi Arabia became a leader in chemical industry around the world. It's one of the biggest. I think it's bigger than BASF. Or the Saudi Aramco, also one of the biggest refinery. And each country has its own story of successes, like Qatar having the largest LNG in the world, or the United Arab Emirates having the largest aluminium plant in the world, and also producing chemicals, and of course a major shipment and logistical center. So the successes are there, but the need to further diversify and to look at the new goals is really of paramount importance. And I can give you another example. Even with the successes in diversifying the economy and the exports, by the way, still there is a problem for the budget. Because 19%, for example, of the 80% of the budget in most countries of the area are coming from oil revenues. And in this direction, what is happening now, trying to create new tax bases for the budget, which is a major source of internal policies for social coherence in the country, is a welcome step from my point of view, because now we have a VAT imposed January 1st for the first time, and it's not known broadly in Europe, 5%, not all sectors are included, but it's creating new sources, because you need to have money for the state to conduct policies in the end. So I think now the new period should focus apparently on new technologies, and of course the countries probably need to combine the old approaches, which are more centralized, towards creating a more generic economic growth for the SMEs by facilitating financial access for them, creating incentives for nationals to work in the private sector and to establish their companies, and also at the same time limiting the public employment and redirecting people, which means, and will need in the longer run, creating safety nets for the country. But there are two clearly good factors for this transition and for the renewal of the strategic plans of the countries. One is the political will, which is apparent in all the countries, to go for a post-oil period, and two, you have enough money as reserves, which have been accumulated on that basis, so smartly directed, they can create a new success story. And finally, on the role for the European Union. The first element is the political partnership for peace and stability, which I think is essential for you. Because EU, unlike all other players in the region who are economically important for you, who are politically important, or from a security point of view important as the US, is a power of peace, and it is our essential fundamental interest to have stability and peace also in the region. The others may play their geopolitical chessboard, but we don't. It's our interest, because if we don't work and provide human development, stability, possibilities for people to develop, then your problems will be bigger. Not speaking about any individual country, the problems of the region in a whole, and they will come to us, as we've seen with the refugee flow in 2015 from Syria, but not only. Then secondly, a major trade partner, of course. And from this point of view, indeed, there is a need for a much more serious effort for signing a free trade agreement. And if back in 2008 the major problem was some political elements and raising the issues of good governance and human rights, and some countries were affected in a way and said, no, we don't want it then, this is part of EU policy. It will not change. It's part of our policy vis-à-vis any trade partner. So it has to be taken into account, and ways should be found, because otherwise, although the trade is big, I think it's about 130 billion euro, the balance is very much in favor of the European Union for the moment. It will not be enough, and the full potential will not be developed without a free trade agreement. And then, on the other elements, we're living in a post-Paris Agreement era, and indeed, this is changing a lot. In Europe, we're moving towards a priority of circular economy, priority for new environmental technologies, reducing fossil fuels. That will affect our trade. But also, we can be very helpful in a major direction, which is the technology transfer. With the partnership instrument, but also more generally in the business partnership between the European Union and the GCC countries. Because this is an area where we are better than many other partners which you do have. And this will help you also rebalance you internally on energy efficiency, water supply. To give you one simple example, with the new technologies for desalination, which have been developed in the European Union, they can be very beneficial for the people in the United Arab Emirates and the other countries of the GCC. One element. And last but not least, I think Tono said it very clearly and this is the essence and the key issue. Education. Educating the new generation. This is, I think, a very important element. There is a big and positive change, but still not sufficient if you look at en masse. And this is the future, because if you want to become a competitive economy in a post-oil period, this is the major source of every country and every economy. I missed one element, I want to add it: digital economy. This is becoming a new reality. We cannot even grasp yet, each one of us, the scope of the changes in economy, which is creating by digital economy, internet and everything else. But this is where I think it would be essential, your countries, to invest in a very focused, concentrated way and find partnerships with European companies, institutions, scientific institutions, and benefit on this to achieve your goals for diversification. Sorry for the longer time. I have some academic background in my personal story. You know that academics don't speak less than 45 minutes, but I think I was shorter. Thank you.
I thought you were a politician. Okay, thank you very much.
But the background says it.
It's very interesting. We're in an area where we're post-globalization, because digital communities take you beyond borders, sometimes beyond geography and beyond time. And that is going to change even the way we think about ourselves, our relationship, and how we can do things. So definitely, as pointed out, we've somehow talked more about the UAE than anyone else, but Saudi is doing exactly the same thing. The new development in NEOM is a huge technology-based development, and it's trying to use that as we did with the space program, as Amran has pointed out, use it as a way to invigorate the community, use the younger generation, push them in a new direction, different than the previous direction. So that new dynamics is happening, and I think definitely education is at the forefront of all of that, particularly because education will take something like 12 years before it starts giving you some sort of a direction, but also because education is actually your way of imagining the future. And if I would say from the experience of the GCC, most of the education that we get, the modeling of education is based on Western model. So that's pretty much, even the imagination of the future, I would have to say, is based on a Western view. So, as I was saying before, I tell my Chinese friends that they are a superpower, but they are a one-dimensional superpower. It's only economy. Our relationship with the Western world, both the EU and the US, is a four-dimensional relationship. We have strong political understanding on a number of issues. We've got a very strong security understanding and cooperation. We've got a strong economic and a cultural understanding. So these things are very important to create a well-rounded relationship. And definitely, thank you very much.